let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's make it happen for all of you. Thanks for your patience. Some of you are watching the replay. Actually, 99% of you watch the replay or the recording. You're just like, what are you talking about? Love it. So we're going to get straight to the point for all of you. So Facebook Live interviews right here is where we start. I figured this was fun. This is actually a movie called The Internship, right? But they're doing an interview and they're going through it. So we're going to go through some of the simple processes for you. Huge benefits. There's actually less content to prepare because it's an interview. There is good questions you can ask. You can actually prepare some of the questions if you'd like. You can ask the person you're interviewing if they'd like to know what the questions are beforehand. Some do, some don't care as you go. And then you always want to over prepare with a couple extra questions just in case, but don't feel like you have an agenda where you have to get through those specific questions. So there's huge benefits because just less content to prepare as you're sharing. Now I say shared audiences because, many times people want to say who this person is. Many times this person that does the interview will share their interview, not always, but many times they're going to share it specifically to their audience. And so it's a great way to increase engagement and increase your influence and increase your audience. So I want you to look at that. Shared credibility. The next thing I really want you to look at is it can help increase that credibility. Now, what I like to do is I like to make it where it's focused on them when I'm doing an interview, but I always listen to what they're saying and I like to edify what they're saying, of course, only if you agree. But I'm also giving my personal insights as I'm going through this. I'm going through personally what I feel like, or what are my insights? What do I have that I can add to what you're saying, rather than just saying great content. And then I go to the next one because you're sharing that credibility as you go. So ask to interview someone. It's just a joke. I know. Does anyone else get the text? You're scared when the text reads, can I ask you a question? You're like, oh no, can you? Depends on who it is, right? But ask to interview someone, just pay them a compliment. Now you got to tell the truth and whatever that is. You could even say, hey, I'm super nervous to ask you, but I'd love for you to do an interview. Now you also have to understand that, don't be offended depending on who it is and their time constraints. I felt really bad. I can't, for this challenge, I cannot do any interviews with any of you for it to count because that wouldn't be fair or anything. Plus it'd be kind of hard if we had 100 at one time. And then remember, I'm a recovering people pleaser and you just make me feel really bad or guilty. But ask to interview someone. So pay them a genuine compliment. Let them know why. I mean, obviously you want to interview them. So there's a reason why. There's something you see that's good. So I'm going through this whole process with you, even though this is a very simple training. This is very important. This is something that's never, ever talked about as you're doing this. So ask to interview someone. That's a really, really big thing, important. Different platforms. BeLive.tv. You can have a free account. You can have a really cheap account. When I say cheap, I think it's like $9 or $10 a month. So it's BeLive.tv. And that's a great place where you can do dual and you can get them on the live before. So you're not freaking out. I know sometimes when I do dual lives on Facebook, I'm like freaking out. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? And even still, we have issues with all the platforms. I still have issues sometimes with Zoom like I did today. I have issues sometimes with BeLive.tv. But sometimes I feel a lot less stressed when I can have them on the live beforehand. I will say that I personally feel like Facebook does like using their dual live better from an algorithm standpoint, but sometimes we just don't want to get caught up in that. And there's not that much of a difference. So don't get caught up in that, but you figure out which platform you want. Zoom currently right now, you can get the basic plan. That used to not be the case. You used to have to pay a ton of money. And you used to have the webinar feature on Zooms to be able to live stream it. Now you don't. Literally, that's what I'm on right now is just a Zoom. I'm doing a screen share. And once I'm live on the basic plan, it just says, live stream to your Facebook. So those are some things for all of you to understand as far as different platforms. And you can play around with different ones as you go. But it can make it, cool sometimes. Like when I'm using BeLive, I can have different graphics and I can take like the comments people are making and I can put them up, there, which encourages more commenting, as we know, encourages more engagement. So that can be absolutely key. So work out the kinks. I know a lot of you are freaked out about doing a Facebook Live. So you can do this with the person you're interviewing, or if they're experienced and you're just nervous and you want to practice with a friend. So what you do is you create a Facebook group, and the Facebook group is just you and that friend. It could be even a secret group or private group. And you go in and you just want to test it out. Now, if you're using BeLive, you actually have to go to the settings and then the apps and add BeLive.tv. Zoom, you do not need to add. BeLive, you do, because you're recognizing people that are commenting and sharing and different things. And so their permissions, they make you do that. So you can go test it out and just test it out beforehand so that you feel a little bit more comfortable as you're doing interviews. But I'm just telling you, interviews are absolutely key and critical as you're doing this, and it can help out. So I personally, I like BeLive for doing interviews most of the time. I like and you can have more than one person on it, and you can actually screen share different things. I don't really love the screen share as much there. I like using Zoom more for screen share. That's just personal preference. So you can figure out what it is that you want to do. So have questions, as I said, prepared. And you just decide. You can ask if there's anything in particular they want to talk about. You say, hey, we're on this topic. Are there any questions you want me to ask? Any questions you don't want me to ask? And then you can just say to them, something really, really, simple of a couple of questions you're prepared, unless they're okay with it. And have a little bit of fun when you're doing interviews. I mean, don't be so serious. Of course, you can get straight to the content. Of course, you need to know your audience. But again, your audience wants to get to know you and everyone else a little bit. So if you can have a little bit of fun during the interview, that always makes a difference as you're doing these interviews. So those are simple things you can go through. Share insights. So like I said, someone shares their insights, you share your insights upon their insights. It'll always allow your audience to get to know you better. It's just like the quote. If you have a great quote that you want to share, don't just share your quote, right? Share your insight on your quote. It's the same principle of that on a post. I know there's standalone quotes, and sometimes that's okay, but I mean, as much as possible, if you're going to share a quote, share your insights on that quote as you're going. Smile. Look at this dude. I love that. He's owning that smile. Sometimes, right, it goes with, having fun. We're so serious. Relax a little bit, smile, have fun. Don't freak out. Everybody that's done lives have seen the Wi-Fi go bad, or the lighting go bad, or they're dropped, and we're all like freaking out. Like no one's going to remember it a day from now, 2 days, 3 days from now. So just get over it. It's not that big of a deal as you're going. Just get over it as you're doing. Good Wi-Fi. Make sure your guest has good Wi-Fi whenever possible, or good service. If it's bad, it's bad. You just get over it. You move on, and you just do part one, and you maybe do another part two another time. But it's really hard if you're going in and out the whole time. It can be distracting. Now, if it happens, it happens. It's part of life. It happens to me all the time on different interviews that I'm doing. Whenever possible, I would make sure you have good service, especially when you're doing it and they're taking the time to do an interview with you, right? And then what I would do is I would make sure that their service is good. And if it's not, pick a different time. I'm just telling you, you don't know how many shots you have of doing these, right? And so don't freak out if it's bad, but I'm just trying to help you. Length. So this is, again, these aren't things that are talked about. It's a pretty important topic. But how many times have you seen trainings right on interviews? I thought this is interesting because those of you that know me, I'm a master collaborator. And so I've done, I don't know, maybe as many interviews, Facebook Lives as almost anyone in the last couple of years. I don't want to make the claim I have because I don't know. I know I'm right up there, but interviews can be longer. They can be longer. People are going to pop on and off. And because it's two different people and different voices going on, they may only watch a minute. They may watch 2 minutes. They may watch 5 minutes. They may love it and come back. And some people may watch the whole thing. But guess what? The Facebook algorithm actually loves longer better. Because what happens is they're going to count it if somebody just watches for a couple seconds as a view. So a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, I got 1,000 views. Yeah. But maybe 900 of those people only watch for a couple of seconds. That's why I like to look a lot at engagement. But the reason why it can help is because that gives you more opportunities for engagement. That also creates social proof. When someone sees there's a lot of views, they're much more curious to watch. So don't force it on an interview and try to go crazy long. Maybe your style is only 20 minutes interviews. Maybe it's 30 minutes. Most interviews I do, our shortest is probably 25 minutes and longest is an hour. And most of the time my goal is to be about, 35 minutes, 40 minutes or so max. but sometimes it just goes and it's going really well with the flow. And I see people just sharing and engaging and commenting, and new people are jumping on at different times as you go. But give the person you're interviewing an expected time frame, because as you're giving an expected time frame, right, as you're doing it, then it helps them to know. Because the last thing you want to do is say it's 20 minutes and then all of a sudden you're 40 minutes as you're doing it. Entertain. Now you may say, I'm not entertaining Robert Moore. That's okay. Maybe just think of some witty questions to ask them before, right? Maybe one question is just totally, out there, like funny. It's a way to get to know them. So you just decide, but again, don't get overwhelmed here. I'm just giving you ideas. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do an interview because I can't do all this stuff perfectly that Rob's saying. Each one of you is a little bit different as you're doing this. And so, you just decide as you're going. Next thing is authentic engagement. Ask. That's one of the top things. So you got to find a way, think of authentic engagement you can ask. So you could be watching, you could be like, hey, I'm always just curious, who is watching my friend that I'm doing a Facebook Live with right now, Jen. If you have, drop a Y in the comments. If you haven't before, drop an N in the comments. Because if you're genuinely curious and you want to know, I'm always genuinely curious. I love to see how everyone's watching from all over the world. My kids love to see that when people put in the comments, they're watching from different places all over the world. So those are absolutely key and critical as you're going about it. And so you figure out ways to ask genuine engagement. So let's say somebody's talking, for example, sometimes you just think of things on the spot. Someone's like, I've been in this profession for 25 years. And you're like, oh my goodness, I forgot. I had no idea. You're like, that is just crazy. You have so much experience. I want all of you to drop in the comments below, how long have you been in the network marketing profession? And if it's not very long, you could put even months. And if it's years, put how many years. I'm really curious, right? That's a fun thing to get to know people. Or you could be interviewing someone and you ask them, what's the best movie of all time? And they tell you, you're like, I'm curious, what do you all think? And you give your best movie of all time. So it's a great way for the audience to get to know you. It's also a great way to create more comments, which tells the Facebook algorithm, wow, there's lots of engagement here. This is a more popular Facebook Live. Let's show this to more people. So again, try to find genuine ways to get engagement as you're going. Reply to comments after. Now, again, if you do a Facebook Live and you got 100 plus comments and you're like, I already have so many, I've cracked the algorithm, I don't have time. You don't have to. I'm just telling you, the more comments you reply to, the more that you're creating more interaction with Facebook, which number one, you're creating the law of reciprocation. You're showing you care, especially if you only have 10, 15 comments, like that's a lot, but that's enough where you can go show some love. I mean, they took the time to watch your live and comment, show some love. I never missed comments until I got to the point where I had so many, it was just like my wrists and fingers were getting tired, right, trying to reply. And I still feel guilty that I don't reply to a lot of comments. I still do, but that's called positive stress. So I like to reply to comments, right? To law of reciprocation, and also increases and helps you on the algorithm. And then thanks. Personally thank the person that interviewed you right after the interview. Just let them know. I mean, I say thanks most of the time, even when, somebody interviewed me. I said, hey, thanks so much for having me on, because I know that they're trusting me to put me in front of their audience. And so it's a sign of respect. So I say, thanks so much, for having me on. I hope that's what you were looking for. See, you messed up on words. You said, I hope that's what you were looking for. And then you go and you do that. So always personally thank the person after the interview, after you do it. Here are several examples for you. How to recruit your chicken list. Notice again, what I did is I started with the headlines, as I talked to you guys about niches to riches, and then we went through the headlines and different headlines to use. So this is an interview I did right here. Here's another interview I did on edifying them inside of the Facebook Live. Learn a few tips from Elisa, who has created a group volume of, and that was her exact volume the month before. And so I go through that. Richard Bliss Brooke, author, speaker, one of the top income earners in network marketing, breaks it down. And so I'm edifying them a lot of times, if you notice, inside of the interview of this is why you want to listen to it. And then if you have a specific hard topic that you can also address of, again, the question is always in headlines of why would people want to tune in and listen when they're so busy and there's so many, so much content out there? Why would they want to listen? So come through here, Tracy, she went from homeless to the top earner in her company. They're like, wait, what? Like homeless to top earner? Like that gives me hope. I want to know what's going on as you do it. So we go through here, Jessica, she's going to give us a butt kicking. I want to know how I manage time better. So these are just different examples. I love that screenshot of Fraser and I. Look how bad my Wi-Fi, I think, was going in and out. And I kept like testing it and we kept trying to figure it. Actually, I think it was Be Live or something, whatever we're using was messed up. And then look at his. So I got a bad screenshot on purpose for all of you on this. So, you know, you just go through this. Featured speaker at GoPro, like this is creating that curiosity of why they should listen. Here's another recent one that I did. You're probably playing small and making way too many excuses. This is something Brooke wanted to talk about. So again, I asked her, I said, anything in particular? And she said, yes. So I did that. And then I edified her inside of it. Another one with Amber, top 5 income earner in her company. Again, I'm edifying her, and then I go find out her top tips to 10 times your recruiting. Great hard topic right there. Great hard topic. So I'm integrating, you guys know, niches, right, to riches, right? So I'm giving you my niche, and I've created my niche of what do people like talking about? Social media, money, or recruiting. I just hit all 3 of those there. So there's that. So I've got my niche, I've got my headline, and then I'm showing you an interview how I'm doing. So I'm bringing this all together for all of you just to give you perspective. So as always, as you're doing this, just do it. You're not going to be perfect. You know, you're going to figure out it's a balance of interjecting. I tell the person I'm interviewing before, hey, I'm going to make sure it's about you, but I will interject at some points, because if someone talks for 15 minutes straight, they lose their train of thought, the people that are paying attention. So I'll interject and say, whoa, hold on one second. I'm so sorry for interrupting, but did you all just hear what Susie just said? Did you just hear that? Did you hear that, just that top tip that she just gave right now? And then I'll drop that top tip again. I'll give my insights. I'm like, I'm so sorry for interrupting. Let's go back. I want to hear some more. This is so good. So you notice how I'm flowing in the interview, right, to pattern interruptions so that people are paying attention and people are listening as they go. So I think that's huge and key. As you're all doing, and you can just learn. I mean, go watch mine. Some are good, some are bad, some are suck, some are great. But you can just learn and learn what resonates with you. So your challenge for all of you is an interview, Facebook Live interview. You need to find somebody to interview. I don't care how long, I don't care what the topic is, but you've got to do that before challenge number 4. I gave many of you a heads up. I made like posts, comments on all the other posts. And some of you probably still didn't see it, probably 50% of you, but that was just an extra heads up. So I know you may be scrambling. You may have to go to your best friend, someone that can do you that favor, that can hop on. Go find someone to do a Facebook Live interview with and go crush it and integrate some of these tips. Hey, drop in the comments below so I always know what your insights are, what I learned based on your insights. What was the number 1 tip that you learned from this training that you feel like helped you out as far as interviews? Maybe something new, maybe it was a reminder. Let's go crush challenge number 3.